So let's do our first intro. First, we got from Midstar Productions, we have Ray Veray, aka DJ Doc. Then we also got from Nightlife Sensations, we got DJ INO.
How you guys doing?
And then we also have the Carry On Kid from Unlimited Sounds. So let's start off. Ray, tell us how you got into DJing and how you started your crew.
I started DJing back in high school, probably sophomore, junior year, 83, 84. There was a bunch of us who got into DJing, a bunch of people at the school. Actually, we formed Unique Musique. I was originally in that group. At that time, a lot of guys joined. And me and Arnell Lim, the co-founders, decided to start our own group. But we were all in the same unit. We all knew each other. Part of us went to Midstar. The other stayed with Unique. So that's where it all started in El Camino High School in South San Francisco.
And then DJ INO.
So damn, I feel really old. So I started back in 1979. I was in 8th grade, grew up in the city, Western Addition, Haight-Ashbury neighborhood. And first gig was my 8th grade graduation party. Started off with 3 of my best friends, Ernie, Ronnie, and George. So we started a group called Midnight Express and started doing basically parties because Ernie was older than us. He was already in high school and he started connecting us with some of his friends. So we started doing a lot of house parties. And then one of our bigger gigs we did, because growing up in a Filipino family, your parents are a part of a Filipino association. So those kind of gigs were pretty frequent. So we got to do a big gig at St. Agnes Church. So that's really how I started. And then we later merged with Nightlife Sensations in the early to mid 80s through my cousin, Scylla. So that's how I got my start.
Ray, you basically said there were too many people in the crew.
Yeah, there was a bunch of us who wanted to join the group, and it was just too big. We had to cut in, not half, but like a third of us went to go form Midstar. Well, Pat Salvatin, he was the head mixer, and I was the head mixer also. I felt like we were going to clash. So instead of having 2 head mixers, we just decided to cut off and start off Midstar. And then we recruited other people from Westmore, the River Brothers, Wilson, rest in peace, Wills, James, my cousin Glenn, and Joey Jimenez, Joe Baxter. That's us with Unique Musique. We were close. We were like brothers.
So there wasn't issues when you guys split up. There wasn't like beef or anything, or like having to choose sides or anything.
No, there was no beef, no issues. We all supported each other. We backed each other up. Lend lights, lend speakers, equipment.
Yeah. So with Nightlife, when you guys merged, was it just because you guys were too small and you felt like you had to join together?
So I remember how it started. My cousin Scylla was at our house, and because we had a little get together, and she brought the Carvajal brothers. It's Demi, Dodie, Dennis, and Derek. And so we were talking about DJing, and we just hooked up, and then we got along really well together. So after that meeting, Demi called me up and said, "Hey, let's maybe we should combine forces." So because we had some equipment, they had some equipment, so we put it all together, and Nightlife was formed. Actually, Nightlife was already formed, but they were just kind of beginning. I don't remember the name of the group Demi and them had before, but they were in a different group before Nightlife, and then they formed Nightlife, and they hooked up with me and Ron. And so we all joined and formed Nightlife.
When there were crews, there were various, positions, I guess, or different tasks that everyone did. There was a head mixer. There might be a couple, or a lot of you guys spun. But then when you guys did the battles or showcases or whatever, like some people would take turns spinning, I guess, and then some people would work more on the audio. Some people would work more on the lights. What were your guys' particular, I guess, positions?
Let me start. So with Nightlife, we had two spinners. It was Dodi Carvajal. His DJ name was The Bandit. And then I spun as well. But Dodi was really quick with the mixing. So he took a lot of the bigger gigs because I'm like, I didn't want to take that role. So I focused more on the audio. So I made sure the speakers were set up and configured. And we had this one guy, Vince Filipinas, and Demi. Both of those guys were the light guys. So these guys were rockers. They were really into the rock, the Scorpions type of light show with the smoke. That was really the focus on the lights that we had. So we kind of had that rock concert type atmosphere. And I know Anthony brought it up with the flash powder. We did the same thing. We would get the flash powder from this store on Market Street. It was like a theatrical store, and you buy it by the bottle.
Yep.
And we would mix it with sawdust. And we had this container, like this wooden platform, and it was a little divot, and we pour the mixture of the sawdust and the flash powder, and we had a single strand of wire that was attached to two screws, which had an extension cord. So when we flashed it, we would just plug it into the wall, and that would cause the flash. And we did that. That was some dangerous stuff. I'm really surprised we didn't cause any fires.
Yeah.
Wait, you guys did it safer than we did, because we would have one of our roadies. They'd actually light a match and then throw it into the cup that's filled with the powder. And sometimes their eyebrows would get burned, and singe your hair sometimes. So, yeah, you guys did it the right way. Kind of the right way.
Yeah, we were at least 5-6 feet away, but I do remember one gig where we did it, and we triggered we popped the fuse, so that wasn't good.
Wow. And then Anthony, I think you were the head mixer, correct, for Unlimited?
Yes, but I also did all the other stuff too.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, pretty much we kind of all did the same. We helped out whatever needed getting done. We got it done.
Ray?
I was just a head mixer.
Yeah.
The other guys did the sound, the lighting. They knew what to do. It was like clockwork. Once we get into gig, it's all said and done. By the time I get up there, spin the records.
Yeah, Ray don't set up. He just shows up at the gig, right before it starts, and grabs his records and put it on there. And then right after the gig, he leaves.
I'm there when they're there.
What was the first type of equipment that you guys spun on? Eno actually sent this to me. He was showing me the mixer that some of the people worked on.
Yep, I use the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's battery powered.
Oh, it's battery powered?
It's battery powered.
In
It's like
there, yeah.
eight double A's, I think.
Yeah.
How long
UV
did
mixer.
those batteries last in it?
Well, it had an AC plug. It was plug-in too.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it lasted a long time. And you had that little red button on the top left. You hit that, and that tells you how much battery is left. So you knew when to change the battery.
Amazing. And then what kind of tables did you guys all start on?
I had
go ahead, Eno.
I had one Fisher and one Marantz, and I used the Fisher to do the mixing because that was belt driven. The other one, the Marantz wasn't, so you really couldn't. You couldn't adjust the speed and that was one of the things. And I couldn't even adjust the speed on the Fisher, so you kind of had to make sure when you're spinning, you were pretty close to the beats per minute on the songs.
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of use your finger to spin it to match or slow it down, get it in the mix, and then let it go. And then we finally graduated to the 1200s.
Well, for me, I did kind of like what Eno did. I had a Fisher turntable, no pitch control on it. It was my parents'. I borrowed it, and then I bought a Technics SLB2. That one had a pitch on it. It was just one of those where you just spin the little wheel. So it wasn't really one of those like that. Yeah, the round knob. Yeah, there you go. And you don't know what the pitch was, so you just kind of, I think that's how a lot of the old school DJs learned. So it was a challenge to have one turntable without pitch, and then the other turntable had pitch, so you had to like get it right every time.
I started off with Mirage too, and then the realistic mixer. The only bad thing about those knob turntables, like when you try to speed it up or slow it down, you can hear that sound where it goes, it's fast, slow. Like today, you can't even notice that with the technology they have now.
Yeah.
That's why Anthony sounds so good when he mixes.
Gee, thanks, Ray. Man, that's the first compliment I ever got from Ray. Thank you very much.
That's
I gotta
the
record
secret.
this.
You guys were like teenagers at the time, right? So how did you guys get your first gigs?
Garage parties.
Garage parties. Yeah. And then from that point, it was word of mouth.
Yeah. You got to do good in a garage party, and then words get around, and you start doing more and more.
So we had to borrow lights as well from San Francisco Public Works. So our first set of lights were the ones that blinked. They were on, to keep cars to direct cars.
Yeah.
So I remember my parents were strict, so they wouldn't let me go out this one night. But a couple of folks from our group went out, and they called me on their way. They're like, "All right, we're coming back. We're gonna bring the lights to your house." We got them. We found it in like Fisherman's Wharf or something. So I see the car driving up, and the trunk is kind of half open, and the lights were blinking. And I'm like, "Hey, you guys, why don't you turn them off?" We're like, "We don't know how to turn them off." So their lights were blinking. They were driving all down San Francisco with those yellow or orange blinking lights in their trunk. It was hilarious. So those were the first two lights that we started off with. And then we graduated and got the Radio Shack. What is it? The strobe light.
Oh yeah, the square ones.
The square one with the wooden kind of. So, yeah, that's how we started. And then we had, of course, the colored lights, like the red bulb and the blue bulb.
Yeah. So all three of you guys participated in this event that was like the Super Bowl for everyone, right? For a lot of DJ crews at the time. Imagine.
Well, Imagine was basically, like you said, it was a Super Bowl of DJ battles. Mark Bradford, yeah, he's the one that set it up. And you got to give the guy props because he did get everybody together. And back then, there's no Facebook or, all these other multimedia stuff. So he had to actually get people to make flyers and then pass them out. And he'd go to all these schools all over the Bay Area, and he'd get his workers, his girls passing out flyers. And he would always just do it every time, and it always worked. And it just started bringing the whole Bay Area, like mostly the Filipino culture, just together at all these gigs. Once everybody kind of knew what was going on, everybody would always be looking for these parties, and he would always just be throwing them every couple of months, so everybody knew just to watch out for it and just follow the flyers.
Yeah, I think Mark was a real estate agent by day. That was his day job.
Yes.
So he had a lot of resources in terms of like getting copies out. So that's how he was able to get flyers out everywhere. You just print them out and have his staff go out and just post them everywhere. And they got better, after every Imagine. I think you just showed Imagine 2. And how basic that was, and then it just got better and better as he kind of figured out how to market, these productions.
Yeah. So you guys were part of the second Imagine. How was that?
So I didn't go to Imagine 2. That was the Imagine that we won. Apparently, there was something that was going on in the back scenes that I want to say, was it Images that won? I don't exactly remember the details, but there was some sort of something that they did. They broke a rule, or they did something where Mark said, "No, because of that, we're deducting some points from you, so Nightlife takes it." So,
wait, so you guys won by default?
I think we won by default, if I remember correctly.
Hey,
Again,
I remember that. Is that when they didn't announce it at the battle, right? They announced it afterwards.
I think they announced it afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I wasn't at that one. So.
Oh, so you weren't at the second one?
I wasn't at the second one.
Okay, okay.
I was at Imagine 7 when we were at the showcase.
Got it. So were you not part of the crew at that time?
I was kind of going in and out. The other guys were already part of it, but I was knee deep in school already. I started at State, so I was kind of going in and out during that time period.
Got it. Okay, Anthony, I think we already kind of mentioned yours because you were Imagine 4. How were the other crews? Lattice Sounds, everyone always talks about those guys. And I know people talked about DMST with Sean Tycho. Or Ultimate Creations was always the one you would always have to focus on.
Yeah, Ultimate Creations was the one. Everybody knew they were the group to beat in San Francisco. Each city had their top crews, and Ultimate Creations was the one in San Francisco. So they were the ones you want to knock off the top, with the battles. And
yeah, they truly set the bar in terms of equipment and how they set up, and their setups were clean. All of their equipment was in anvil cases. They had Klipsch, La Scalas, which were, back then they're still expensive, but back then they were really expensive.
Yep, concert speakers.
Yeah, they were concert speakers, and at the time they just had the main speakers. And I just remember Jose was getting flack. You don't have any bass, so he gets the Klipsch subs and 3 or 4 pairs of those things. And I remember, I think it was a Lowell gig when he showed these out, and he brought, it was like a semi truck. They used the semi truck as a backdrop to their setup, and he busted out his Klipsch setup and just blew everyone away.
Yeah.
So Ultimate Creations definitely set the bar for, equipment and setup. And they also had one of the best DJs.
Yep, Jeannie G.
So.
Yeah. And so this was your guys' setup, right, Anthony, for
Imagine 4.
Yeah. So you already explained this. So this for everyone who hasn't seen it, this is what it looks like.
I think that's Apollo right there, holding it up right in the top part, the middle part. Okay. I think that's Melvin on the left and my brother Bernie on the right. Yeah, like I said, that thing was huge.
Yeah. So for a lot of people who don't know, Apollo is DJ Apollo, DJ Apollo that people. Yes. So at the time when he was part of your crew, he was more of a rapper, right?
Yeah, he was a rapper, and he was one of the breakers, and also he would also spin every once in a while, one of the backup DJs. Like if I do a bathroom break or something, he'd do the cha-cha or slow jam mix or whatever. So, but yeah, he was our pretty much all around guy for doing that stuff.
Yeah. And so did you see any at that time? You're like, oh, he's actually a pretty good DJ, or were you just like, he's just.
I couldn't admit that. No, I'm just kidding. No, he was very good. The thing was, like I said, he was more into he wanted to do the scratching and doing all that stuff, the tricks and stuff. Because I remember we were at a wedding one time, and him and Qbert show up at the wedding, and then he tells me, dude, you got to check this out, and him and Qbert gonna get on the turntables. And he just started, scratching, and I'm like, "What the hell are you doing, dude?" And he just said, "Walk, walk, 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 walk." And I said, "What the hell is that?" And then he said, "Don't you think it's cool?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, the wedding's about to start. If you do that for the wedding, we're gonna get kicked out of here. So. Yeah, so that was like the first time I heard it, and it was just pretty much the basic, like I said, just back and forth scratching, doing weird things, and but yeah, he was pretty innovative and pretty creative, doing that stuff, and I think, he was one of the pioneers of it. Him and Qbert, they put together, I think it was the Invisible Scratch Pickles, and he's got the other groups and stuff. I know Apollo still does it, so he's still going. But yeah, he did all around. He was also, like I said, he was a breaker, with Star City Crew, and he did the rap, doing the rap stuff. Yeah, I couldn't even rap. I couldn't even break dance either. So that's why I stayed the DJ.
Yeah. So going back, what year was that you said?
Man. Which one, the battle or the wedding that he showed up with?
Yeah,
Qbert?
wedding. Yeah, the wedding that you showed up.
Yeah, that was way before the battle.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe that was 80, 84, maybe
Yeah.
83 around that time. So
Yeah.
yeah, he was already doing all that stuff, But like I said, I had no clue what it was, and like I said, we were at a wedding, and you can't be doing that stuff at a wedding.
Introducing
Yeah.
the bride.
Yeah.
And groom. No.
Right, there you go.
So then we'll go to Imagine 5, where Midstar.
Who won that one?
Second place.
What was in your head at the time when you guys prepared for it? How did you guys feel you did? And then how was it when you saw everyone else's set?
Well, I was surprised. My guys went up to us. We had a meeting at my house, and they told me, hey, Mark Bradford wants us to join this battle, Imagine 5. And then I said, okay, who's in the group? I mean, who's going to be performing and battling against? And then, they said all the names. And then when they said sound sequence, I kind of hesitated because me and Roland, we're cool with each other. We did a bunch of 4 turntable mixes. I go there. Sometimes I went to his house. We practiced. And I kind of didn't want to do it. But I think that then Mark wanted us to do it because I think he wanted I don't want to brag or anything, like a headliner and get some people coming in. We had the main stage, which I didn't want because from previous events, that main stage, the power goes off. And guess what? It went off on us in the middle of my set. So I knew that was going to happen. And I really didn't, give my all into it. I was just doing basic mixing, just try to be clean as possible. We didn't even do any rapping, no show. I know Sound Sequence what came out with that Godzilla figure, and that was pretty sick in the beginning. And they had a clean 4 turntable routine. Mm-hmm. I think it was Roland and Don Kabute. I can't remember it was Don, but I know it was Roland. And they did a clean 4 turntable mix. And they deserved to win. They were clean. They got the sound system, that Godzilla, the lighting. So I got no regrets. I'm still happy we did it. We got exposure. I think that was after when we won the St. Augustine battle. So I was kind of surprised we were going to this battle right away. But
who did you guys battle at St. Augustine?
What was that?
Who did you guys battle at St. Augustine?
That was ESP, external.
What a lot of people don't know is the way you guys were judged at Imagine wasn't just the DJ set. It was everything. It was the presentation. It was the lights. It was the sound. It was whatever extra fluff you had. Some people had background dancers. Some people had rappers. Some people had singers. And like you said, so this time you guys decided not to do that.
Yeah, we just went raw. We went raw. Yeah.
And then going back, so do you believe that there was sabotage like that happened a lot at these battles? And
no, because like I said, with that venue, that front stage, power went off a lot. Uh-huh. And I know it wasn't sabotage. I mean, it goes on. I mean, during other gigs, power goes on. You should know that one of our proms, remember you turned it off accidentally. So that was sabotage.
Damn.
Sabotage by
Hey, my phone was down to 2%. Come on, man. I had to charge my phone.
They all looked at me. So that was the bad part. But no, yeah. I mean, there was no sabotage on that.
There was a battle, Ray, that you guys did before that you won at St. Augustine. It was a battle of the DJs against ESP. Which stands for, is that Eternal Sound Productions? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony, that's John Manila.
Yeah,
right?
John Manila's crew, but I'm not sure what he did. I don't know if he was one of the rappers.
No, but what was the name? Was it External Sound?
I think it was Eternal Sound Productions.
Yeah. Actually, that was our second battle because they beat us. I believe it was in Fremont High School where we got invited last second and we decided to go ahead and they killed us. They had lights hanging from the gym ceiling. And I go, whoa, what did we get into here?
So who won the rematch?
We did.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
that's where you stole my ball.
So I did bring this up. So this this is Burt's, but it was Sound Sequence versus ESP. So was ESP? Is this the same guys that you guys battled? Do you think?
That's the same people, yeah.
Okay, so this is new to me, or I don't know if other people knew about. But Eternal Sound Project, were they a pretty good crew? It sounds like they were battling all of you guys. Or you don't
They were
want
out
to
of
admit it to
Daly City, right? Ray?
Yeah,
I don't
they were from
yeah.
Daly City.
Yeah, well, everybody wanted to battle just because, like Ray said, once you're in a battle, you get the notoriety and, you get gigs from that. Everybody wants to hire you, even though, you didn't win. Even if you play second or third, you were good enough to get in, the Imagine battle or AA battle, whichever battle it was. Like I say, you didn't need to win. People would just start following you and hiring you for their parties.
You guys were talking about the difficulty of finding records and stuff like that. So during that time, obviously there weren't as many record pools as there were, later in the years. How did you guys dig for music?
So I think typically you do the Tower Records, but we were lucky. We got into a record pool, Top 25, and they were based in San Francisco and the Castro. I don't know if people know how record pools work, but you pay this monthly fee, and I think in our case, there were 50 members, and you kind of want to be the top of the list because you get the better records, because record companies, for every song that they release, and I think back then CDs were, for every CD they produced, they would produce one record. So, that was kind of like the formula that they had. So they would hand out the records to these record pool companies, and you would basically get a stack of records every week, and you would rate them from 1 to 10 or something like that. And that's basically how they would push songs out. I would say 75% of the songs that you get from a record pool, you don't ever hear. You only hear it in a club. You'll never hear it on the radio. And it was that 25% you're like hoping you get, because that's the kind of songs that everyone knew. And so that's how we got our music, was through Top 25 record pool.
So you said there were 50 members, so it's pretty exclusive then. Is it pretty hard to get into that record pool?
Yeah, for us, I think I put the application in and it took about 8 months for us to get in, because if a DJ would drop, and they prioritized like radio DJs, the mobile DJs were kind of at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yep.
At the time there were so many of them, like all mobile DJs were applying to get on a record pool. But we were lucky to get into one, and that's how we got a lot of our music.
Pretty much same for me. I got pretty lucky because I was in BADA. It was Bay Area DJ Association. They're like one of the top record pools, and it's just like said. But he was getting pretty good records, because I was thinking I'm getting maybe like 1 out of 10 records, maybe even 1 out of 20. That was a good song. I think Summer in the Streets I picked up from there. I had a promo copy, and I already knew right when that song came out, this is gonna be a hit. And that was like one of my weapons I used for, I think, one of the battles, or one of the big showcases I used. I busted that one out, and everybody loved it. But yeah, that's how I did was the record pool. And I think if you weren't in a record pool, you would have to go hunting. You'd have to go to like Ron's Records, Aloha Records, Tower Records, Streetlight Records, a lot of used records there. It was all pretty much down in the Castro Market District. That's where you get the best. Like, I remember at Ron's Records, the guy Ron, the owner, he would always hide the good stuff in the back, and a lot of other mobile DJs didn't know that, so they would just come in. But I became friends with Ron, so he would I would always ask, "What do you have behind the counter?" And he'd always let me listen to those records. Those were like the promo stuff and just the new stuff that came out. If you're at a gig, you always know who the DJs were, because they're like maybe within a few feet of you, trying to look at what record you're playing. That's how we got a lot of the songs that we wanted to get. You always pick it up from other DJs. You don't have Shazam right now, so you can't tell, Shazam a song. So you got to find it, somehow. And the best way was just sneak up on the DJ and see what he's playing, Yeah,
and you don't hear it in the radio. I mean, you hear it in the clubs or from other DJs. So it was really tough, looking for records. So that's why we had to go to Castro Street with that Aloha Records, Ron Records, Streetlight, like what Anthony said. You don't hear it. It's not streamlined in the music, in the radio.
Yeah.
It's totally different now, because now you would play a lot of the stuff that we do. Is you play a lot of stuff to hear on the radio. Because like if you tried to do like what we used to do then, your dance floor clear out, but back then everybody wanted to hear all the latest and newest stuff. They didn't care if they haven't heard it on the radio. Most of the stuff that we played at our gigs or battles and stuff, they were like records that weren't on the radio. These were dance records, but eventually they did, like the freestyle stuff. They didn't play that on the radio back then. They played, like David Bowie stuff or Huey Lewis and the News, that kind of stuff on the radio, but then we were playing the freestyle stuff at these parties. So the DJs, I think, helped push all that music out to all the people. So I think without the DJs, you wouldn't have all the freestyle and all that cool old school stuff.
Interesting. Great. So were you part of a record pool, or were you just like going to the stores?
No, unfortunately, we weren't in a record pool. So we just did the physical thing, go down to the stores, Tower Records in Stonestown Mall in San Francisco, if we couldn't go downtown. But Castro, where all those record stores were, was where to get the good records at.
Yeah, awesome. Just for everyone to know too, where did you guys all grow up?
For me, I was in Daly City.
Me too, Daly City.
Yeah. I grew up in the city, Haight-Ashbury district.
Yeah. So you guys were kind of, I guess, lucky in a sense, because you guys were a little closer to, the city. So you're able to kind of go on those trips to pick up those records versus the suburbs and all that stuff. Obviously, being in Daly City or the city, space was an issue versus like being in the suburbs. So how did you guys divvy up your equipment, or was it all over the place?
For us, most of the equipment was at the Carvajal's house. It was in their garage. So it was all tucked away, nice and neat against the walls so that they can park the car still. And then with the turntables, I either had them or kept them at the Carvajal's house.
Yeah. Right.
For me,
go ahead, Ray. Since I was the head mixer, everything stayed at my house, my garage. A lot of people know the garage there, Lyset. There was all the records, the speakers, the lights were there. The linoleum where all the break dancers practice. Good memories. And my mom still has that house, so it's still there.
Wow. You guys still have the linoleum?
No. That thing went away.
Wait, is your equipment still there?
There's I got old pin spots still there, wires, stuff like that. It's still there.
Well, for us, same thing like Ray. We had all the equipment in my garage. Our house was the central spot. We had, I think, 4 Quakes in there and 4 V35s, the amps and lights. Lights wasn't as much as it is now. And the truss, like you have in that picture, we had 20 feet of truss. I think that was important back then, where to hang lights. So we had plenty of truss. So we had that hanging off the ceiling in the garage. And you've seen those houses in Daly City. They're really small, but some of them are really long. So they'll fit 3 cars, but it's narrow. So yeah, we had all our equipment in there, and everybody would always come to our house, and my grandmother would cook pancit after the gigs and stuff, and everybody would just hang out. I think after the gig was sometimes more fun than the actual gigs, just because there was a lot of stories there after, because everybody would just come and hang out. They're either at my house or we go to Denny's Ceremony. Everybody did that. Bravo's Pizza in the city. Or like I said, I told you before, we'd go for those van rides that I always tried to get Ray to go on, but he was always scared to go.
So let's jump back real quick, because I know you're mentioning about Apollo and the Star City Breakers. So they were affiliated with you guys.
Yes, the DJ crew started out first before the breaking crew. So they just kind of broke off from the DJ crews. You see in there, there's DJ Apollo right in the middle. He's the one holding the trophy, and right next to him is Alex Shabala and Adrian. He was our rapper, the guy wearing the white San Francisco shirt. And there's Al Perfecto way down in the corner. He still DJs now too. DJ Al, he's with Nonstop Boogie. Yeah, and then there's there's a bunch of guys. Other DJ crews are in there too as well. But they were part of the DJ crew first, and then breaking started getting popular, and they kind of broke off into that part of it. They were still part of the DJ crew, but we do these events or battles or showcases or what, and so they would be part of our show, or they would actually be separate and just do their own thing. But we would always work pretty much together. So we support them, they support us. We did the showcases, they perform. A lot of people always came out to see them perform. If you see a guy in the bottom right there with the black gloves, the racer gloves or something, that's Al Perfecto. Like I said, about 15, maybe 20 years, maybe 10 years ago, he's kind of known for his booty drop move on on the strutting thing. So he would just jump up in the air really high, and his legs would just land flat like that on his butt. This is called the booty drop, and he did that like about 10 years ago, and he couldn't get up after he did that. It was
I was there. I saw that.
I think it was a wedding or something like that. It was just a party.
It was St. Patrick's in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's where it was.
Yeah.
And then they were calling him out. Hey, come on out, show us your stuff. And man, we're already like, I think we were in our 30s I think we were in our 30s or 40s already. And he still did that booty drop. Back then he was in his teens, so he could handle it. But at that age, he stayed on the ground. He didn't get up on that one. We had to help him up after.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so Soundman Joe says trying to do a booty drop on one of his birthdays and broken tailbone. Ouch.
Yep. Yeah, Al broke his tailbone. Yeah, he did.
Ooh. What about you for your group, or Ray? Did you guys have like anyone who broke off to get into breaking or anything like that?
Not really in our group. We were just into the setting up lights and the smoke. We used our smoke machine a lot, and we just wanted that rock concert look for all of our gigs.
Yeah. Ray?
Yeah, we had a rap group who joined us in the later part of our years.
Okay.
John, Ed, and Yvonne. I believe they were called Rap City. Yeah, they rapped at our St. Augustine battle. While credit to John Chapman, he did the 4 turntable mix with me, and he rapped during our set. So that was like one of the first times ever done, rapping during a set. And from there on, they just kept, with us to continue to rap, but it never went extreme. They were just our rappers or MCs at that time.
Yeah, there wasn't too many lady rappers back then. So like when you seen, a girl rapping, everybody would watch. It was crazy.
So after this battle that happened, we're going to go to you, Ray. There's the book that came out, Legions of Boom. The title was based on a group that formed a supergroup. So what was the idea for that, or who came up with that? And for you guys, was it, if you can't beat them, join them?
Ouch.
I'm just kidding.
Actually, they were already formed.
Okay.
I believe it was Sound Sequence, Creative Madness, and maybe another group. The reason that Midstar got in there was because me and Roland was doing 4 turntable mixes. We've done a lot of them. So they invited me to come do a set with them with the 4 turntable mix. And they said, well, just, put your name along with the Legion of Boom, and then, try to get more crowd to come out, which we said, all right, we'll go ahead and do it. So we combined. We didn't really need to bring a lot because they already had the sound system, the lighting. So all we added was just a little more lighting with their light show. And then just me and Roland doing the 4 turntable mixes.
Mm-hmm. And then, so I guess from that point, you guys just kind of were you guys always together, or was it kind of like, oh, you're like alliance? Is that what it?
Yeah, more like alliance. Yeah,
Okay.
Our name is associated with Legion of Boom, but I think Burton was the one who created it, so he gets credit for that.
Gotcha.
Wait, was that after Juice Crew?
I think that was after Juice Crew. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, let's go to that. So for Unlimited Sounds and Unique Musique, you guys formed together, and you guys formed Juice Crew. That was an alliance as well, and I guess talk about what was the idea for that.
I don't think there was an idea. We battled Unique Musique, and we lost to them. It was Balboa Octagon High School. It was crazy that these high schools would put these battles together and do all this stuff. But anyway, we battled them, and it was Pat. That was their DJ, and there was a Prince set he did, and I was like, oh man, that's really cool. He played a set of Prince songs, just all mixed together and flowed. And so I give it up to Pat. He's in there. There he is, the guy with right in the middle, next to the red shirt. That was Pat, their main DJ. But I think we kind of formed up after that battle because we became friends after the battle. So we all started hanging out, and since Midstar was part of Unique, we all kind of just started hanging out together, and we just started supporting each other. If somebody was in a battle or had a big gig and needed extra equipment or sound, lights, whatever, we just started supporting each other. And I was going away. That's when I took off for the Air Force. And so we had this big party. It was called Leaving for a Dream. And that picture right there, that's where I think you have us in the middle with the trophy, and then Ray on the left side, and then Unique Musique was on the right side to their setup. So all the DJs brought all their stuff out there, and we formed it as a juice crew thing. And I know Ray did some for turntables with Apollo, but yeah, it just became we didn't really perform together that much. It was more just supporting each other. And except for that one gig there, the Leaving for a Dream one, where we did kind of all just put it all together.
Got it.
Yeah, for us, we didn't form a group, but we always hung out with Ultimate Creations, Beyond the Limit. Those were the crews that we always, they went to our gigs, we went to their gigs.
Yeah. So yeah, there were alliances that you guys were friends, with other crews. You don't have to name names, but if you want to, were there other crews that you guys had issues with, or were always your enemies, or anything, or if you had beef with them?
Man, that's a tough one, because like I said, like we battled Unique Musique, and maybe we hated them like before the battle, but then we became friends afterwards. It's a friendly rivalry. I think that's what it was. There wasn't really bad blood. It was just it's friendly competition. Of course everybody wants to be the best, but I don't think there was any like ill will. I don't know if Ray got any haters out there or
No, at that time everyone was just friendly. We were just all like brothers. Everyone knew each other.
And I
didn't hear of any beef of any other groups.
I think to add to Anthony's comment, I think really the bottom line was we all had the love for the same thing, and that was DJing.
Yep.
Whether it's the sound, the lights, the mixing, or all of those combined, it was the love for DJing, and that's why we all got along. And I'll bump into someone. I bumped into someone from San Diego. I went to my daughter's not fraternity. She had a something at school, and so talked to one of these guys, and I told him I was DJing. He goes, "Oh, we DJ too," and he found out I DJ'd from the Bay Area. And we were talking for hours, and we were all talking about the same thing, about getting lights and records and music. And, it's really that common love for what we did. Yeah. And I think that still burns in all of us.
That's awesome.
But I think some of the San Francisco crews were a little different, though. I think they had a little more, they're a little more tougher. I guess you could say, like, and sometimes, in the DJ crews, I think it was the crews that started the trouble sometimes. It wasn't really, the DJs never started trouble. The DJs always was just into the music stuff. But it was some of the crews, that they'd see the other crews and, they would just start trouble. But, overall, I think, like what everybody is saying, everybody's good friends with everybody else. But one time I did do this garage party. It was this guy's 16th birthday. And then I took along, I think he was in Kicks or Universal Sounds, Paul Tumake. I don't know if any of you guys know him, but yeah, he was one of the DJs before me, so he's one of the starting ones too. But I took him to he's a San Francisco crew, and then I took him to one of our gigs with us, and it was a 16th birthday. It was a garage party. And then we're setting up in the garage, and the birthday boy comes down, and then in the garage, and I'm here setting my equipment, and next thing I hear a commotion going on, and Paul Tumake, punched the birthday boy in the eye, and like he didn't even know it was a birthday boy. I'm like, dude, what happened? And he's like, he looked at me wrong. He was looking at me funny or something like that, right? Yeah. I'm like, dude, he's the birthday boy. So he did apologize and stuff. So the party went on. It was a good garage party, but I think the San Francisco crews were a little more different than I think the Daly City crews. These city crews were a little more kick back and relax and just having fun.
But you also got to remember, back in that time period, that's when there was a lot of gangs,
Filipino gangs,
a lot of Filipino gangs, and pretty much all the schools. So that kind of carried over to the parties that that were happening.
There were a lot of gangs around that time. Did you guys have run-ins with those gangs?
I think for the most part, the DJing part of it got us out of that whole scene, and It was positive for us because we just wanted to play music and play it loud and show our lights. So
Yeah. The gangs knew who like the DJ crews were, and they pretty much left them alone because they knew they weren't into the gang bang stuff, so they weren't going to start any trouble with the gangs. So most of the gang bangers kind of left the DJs alone, you know. And like you know was saying, it saved. I think it saved a lot of Filipino youngsters from getting into gangs because back then, yeah, there was a lot of gangs and everybody was just into trouble. And I think the DJ scene kind of just killed the gang stuff, you know, and everybody just, it was one big party.
Any other memorable battles that you guys remember from your times? Like anything that like really stuck in your head, like where someone had a dope set or whatever, you guys had a really good set, or was really close, or
the one that really stuck in my head, I don't remember which Imagine was, but it was at the Irish Cultural Center. And I remember, was it Ultimate Creations? They had their triangles. I think they were on the center stage. And it just walking in and seeing that, because I'd never seen, usually our truss was one long straight truss going across, but they had the triangles. It may not have been a battle,
yeah,
but I just remember walking in, I saw the triangles, and I was like blown away.
The scissor lift where they lifted DJ Please, Matt, with a lot of sounds.
DJ Extravaganza 92. It was a part battle, part showcase.
I was there. Pete was talking to me, and he was telling me the whole story of how he rented that and how they had to get it set up, put all the wiring in place. You know, I mean, that was some dangerous stuff. Something could have went wrong, and Matt could have got hurt. And I told him, how are you going to do that? And then how's he going to listen to the music? It's going to be a delay, of course, unless he had monitors. You had to be there to see it. And I was in all, my jaw dropped. He was high up there.
I think they had it to the max, right?
Yeah. Pete from Lada, he was right under it. He was so worried and watching every little step, making sure everything goes right.
That's crazy.
But, you know, it worked out for him. And that was pretty amazing how they did that.
At the time, right? You guys were like, you know, high school kids. Were there any makeshift ways where you guys came up with lights, or came up with like speakers or any type of equipment to kind of?
Oh, so back in the days, we had to again borrow lights. So the sirens were run off of battery chargers. But before we figured out we can use battery chargers, we borrowed batteries from cars. But eventually those batteries would run out. So we got into battery chargers. And I remember this one dude, his name was Jeff. He was the master. He was like an electrician. I forgot his last name. It might have been Jeff Chan. He was with, was it Sound Innovations? It was one of the groups that were Chinese based. Sound Innovations, or I don't remember the name. But anyways, this guy built a box with you know, went to Radio Shack, bought all the switches, and he had this thing called double pull, double throw, so that you can make the light go left and right. So he'd wire the box, and so, you know, he told us how to do it, and we made our own box. And Derek Carvajal, he went to McAteer, and he had metal class, so he made our first light box out of that corrugated metal, which it was a nice box, but there was one gig we had, I guess one of the wires got loose, so there was a short.
Ouch. Electric shock.
And it started to smoke. So like at the end, you know, right when I found out, I smelled the smoke. I was, what the hell's that? You know, I was like, unplug all the lights. You know, the dance was still going on, and there was smoke coming out of the thing. So we ended up using power strips. So we pulled all the lights out, put them on power strips, and that's how we were turning them on and off after that gig. But yeah, that was one that was dangerous. I mean, we could have gotten electrocuted.
I think everything we did back then was dangerous.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, no. We had our light box. We had the smoke coming out of it too one time. So I think everybody experienced that. And same with our light box. Ours was homemade. I made it. It was those two-way toggle switches. I don't know if you've seen those little black toggle switches you had in cars. They were used for cars, but we used it for for, what was it, 110 volt. And like I was saying, like sometimes my light guys would get electrocuted because they'd be messing around with the light inside the light box, and they'll be plugging stuff in, and sometimes there's no ground to it. So they touch the wrong thing, and you'd see them like, get shocked and just jump back from it and say, oh, somebody got shocked again. And it was no big deal back then. We don't have the 240 or 220 volt, or else we'd have a lot of dead people.
So we had Imagine and Just for Fun. And then there was also Arlene Aviar. She put on AA production stuff. Were you guys a part of those things?
We were invited to one, but we got blacklisted by Imagine when Mark found out we were going to showcase in one of AA Productions showcases. He made a quick call to Arlene and into that. So we got bumped out of that.
So how did you guys get blacklisted?
So, Mark being Mark, and
go ahead.
How was Mark? I don't know how he was.
It was all kind of part of what happened at Imagine 2, and we pretty much tried to stay away from Imagine after that. And I don't know. I guess Mark sensed it. But, we just didn't want to participate in a lot of the Imagines after that. So I think Demi and Mark got into it, a little verbal altercation, I think. I'm not sure of the exact details because I wasn't there when that happened. But shortly thereafter, AA contacted us to see if we can showcase in one of their. It was that flyer, the pink flyer. We got on the flyer, and then Mark found out, and I got a call from Arlene the next day saying, sorry, got to drop you from the showcase.
And so then after that, like, were you guys able to kind of, I guess, bounce back?
Well, as I had told you, Nightlife's, our big thing was we did a lot of college gigs.
Yeah.
So, Mark didn't touch any of that. That was our thing.
Yeah.
We didn't really pay attention to the showcases. I mean, if we were asked to participate, we'll participate. But we just wanted to make our name, and we made our name in the college scene.
Yeah.
No, like I said, he was a good guy, unless, he was after you. But AA Productions, too, she helped out a lot.
So the Imagine budgets, did you know the numbers?
No.
No.
Not really, but I know, like, his budget, he didn't do it to make money. He didn't actually either break even or lose a little bit of money. He was never after, making the money.
So there's AA, and then there's Just for Fun. And you guys partake in Just for Fun?
Yeah, we did a couple events for them. One of the events is when Apollo and Mixmaster Mike did their Peter Piper routine. They did it on my turntable, so I got fame on that. But yeah, when they went up there and did that, everyone was just in awe. They couldn't believe it was two guys, one mixer, two turntables, and the sound they was putting out was like mind blowing. Everybody was just quiet after that.
Yeah,
that was incredible.
There were a couple of productions that were trying to put things on that got blacklisted, like D-Boys and Destiny. Henry from Mystical Legacy, he talked about that, how his crew was blacklisted because of them being on the Destiny flyer.
Yeah, we were already blacklisted, so we got into that one. So that was pretty cool. They were very organized. They had it set up really nice. They invited us because they already knew that we were really big in the college scene. So we didn't even think about the fact that we're blacklisted. It's like, whatever.
Well, there was the other production company, Pinnacle Fantasy. I don't know if you guys ever did anything with them. We got invited to their battle. They mainly had Chinese DJ battles. And the first one we got invited to, we had no clue what we were getting ourselves into. We show up, and there's a Legion of Boom, there's Legion of Lights. They had everything and anything, and they made it. It's like they knew fireworks, they knew everything. But we still did win that battle, and it was because we were mixing, and they were basically focused on the lights.
Yeah, that's a good point, Anthony. They had lights. I remember they're chasing lights. They had frames.
Yeah, they made
set
them.
up.
Like I said,
they made it. It was all with the bulbs.
Yep. Oh, they would go crazy. They would go crazy with the lights. Yeah, no, theirs was pretty crazy because, like I said, they had a whole different crew. It was all mostly Chinese. There were some Filipinos, but it was mostly Chinese people. When we showed up there, we never seen any of these crews before. have had the same thing like what Filipinos had with the DJ groups. Maybe there were Chinese groups in in their circle, but I never knew of them. And it's not like I didn't do a lot of Chinese gigs, but they knew of us because I think they went to some of Bradford's gigs and some of our showcases and stuff. So that's how we got invited to theirs. And like I said, they had us surrounded with everything. All we showed up there was with 2 Quakes and 2 Tops V35s and a couple of beacons and couple of strip lights. But like I said, they would, the way they mixed was, one song after the other, and they would stop, or not really stop, but they wouldn't mix it in. So the crowd would come and go on the floor, where as soon as we came on, we used to the non-stop mixing and just kept the beat going, and the dance floor just kept getting filled with everybody, and it was just non-stop dancing and partying until the end. Luckily, we were the last one to go on, so it was packed, and it was voted by. Actually, the voting was done by the guest or the people that attended it, and not by judges. Because I think if it was by judges, we might have lost. I don't know, because because they may have judged it by the lights. But I think because everybody had such a good time because they were just dancing, they stayed on the floor the whole time we were playing. I think that's how we got the crowd to vote for us. So I think we got lucky with that one, where the crowd was the one that was voting.
And I think that's how nightlife got into the college scene, because we started doing a lot of Asian Business Association dances because they liked our style, because we mixed and we kept the people on the dance floor the whole night. There's one group, one of the Chinese groups, Sound Innovations. They're huge back then, and they're still Gordon and I think his brother Wayne. I think they're still in it. They still do sound for like Aloha Fest, all of the sound at the J-Town. So I know Gordon's still doing the sound stuff. I don't know if he does any mixing still, but he's still doing it. It's still in his blood.
Yeah. So DJ Pone asks, was there any influence or inspiration from outside the Bay Area, like LA or NYC? Or was it all just you guys? Yeah.
No, I know there was the mixing style on the East Coast was way different from West Coast. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Theirs were more cuts. I think ours were more blends, and I like our style better. I don't know.
Hey, same here. Same here.
So I guess this kind of connects a little bit. So PMix976 says, I believe Cameron Paul influences a lot of aspiring DJs. Did any of you have any aspirations to get on radio, or was it just to be the best mobile DJ crew? Yeah, and were any of you guys on radio? I don't think any of you guys were you?
No, I wasn't.
But yeah, Cameron Paul was definitely inspiration for all of us. I know, Anthony, you brought it up. I too went to Studio West back in the days. And
wait, how'd you get in?
So the only reason I was able to get in is I don't remember when the last call for alcohol was. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was 12 or 1 o'clock. Whenever that was, is when they let anyone else under 21 go in. Once the bar closed, then they opened it up for everyone else to come in. And I remember going in there with my cousin. He was our excuse with our parents to get out of the house and stay out all night. And we would go to Studio West, just like you guys. I'd go upstairs and face the DJ booth, because they had the mirror ball lady, the lady mannequin that was mirror balled, that was spinning around the booth. And I would just listen to Cameron Paul till like 6 a.m, and then we'd walk out and the sun's rising. But yeah, he was definitely an inspiration.
Yeah, he was my idol, I guess. Every mix he put out is flawless. It blends. I had one story where he was going to perform. I forget what event it was, but it was all the way up in Vallejo. So me and a couple of my guys went up there to see him. I was so excited. I go, yeah, I get to see him in person. I didn't go to Studio West, I guess. I'm younger than these two right here. So I was able to follow him up there. And then he started doing his set. And then all of a sudden the power went out on him. I go, oh man, that's kind of messed up. You got Cameron Paul up there. But he didn't care. He kept queuing up all his records. He kept mixing. I could hear it on his earphone. He didn't care. He just went through his routine. I go, man, this guy is sick. Even though the power goes out, he's still performing. man, this guy is really into this. So, he was a big inspiration for me
Yeah.
after seeing that.
So a couple of, was it last, maybe 2 years ago when he passed away, they had his memorial in San Mateo, at the funeral home there on El Camino. So I actually stopped by because
Oh wow.
I was in the neighborhood and I wanted to pay respects because he definitely inspired me as a DJ. They basically just had pictures and some of the memorabilia of Cameron Paul, and they had it lined up at the table, and they had music playing, and his sister was there, really nice lady.
Well, when he was at Studio West, besides the turntables, I would see him mixing with the 8-track, and I never ever saw anybody mix with the 8-track and turntables. So that was pretty crazy, because he would stretch out songs. Back then, I think that was the thing, was that to make a song go from like 3 minutes to play for like 10 minutes, and he would just totally remix it on the fly, and he'd be using 8-track, 8-track tape, mixing with the records. And like I said, you couldn't tell when the next song was coming in. He was just that clean and smooth.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Arnell Lim, I think you might have talked about it, but obviously a lot of this stuff costs a lot of money, all the equipment that you guys acquired and all that stuff. How did everyone come up with the money to get started?
Line of credit at Guitar Center.
Line of credit with my grandparents.
Arnell Lim's parents.
No,
That's why he asked that question.
Well, you didn't really need a lot of money back then, as long as you could start out with home speakers. Like that's what I did. Was I had these cheapo house speakers that we brought. It lasted for like maybe 2 or 3 gigs. For just a garage. Well, back then it was just garage parties starting out, so you didn't need big Cerwin Vegas or anything like that. You could get by with a few cheapo speakers and home turntables, and as long as you kind of kept the groove going for the party, it was good. And like I said, one of our first parties at Broadmoor Hall, man, I remember I had a Marantz. It was a home stereo, and you had the radio on there too. So like before the gig was starting, I was playing FM radio was on playing before the gig, and so the gig starts. But we only had one light. I had a strobe light for the party the whole night, so the strobe light was going off the whole night for like 3 hours or 4 hours, or however long that party was, and nobody cared. As long as the music was good, everybody was moving and grooving, everybody had a good time. I think that you didn't, like I say, you didn't need a lot of money, but then the money started coming in, and then we would just reinvest it back into into the crew. But I think a lot of it went to eating out afterwards. I think Denny's made a lot of the money off of DJs and stuff.
Yeah, that brings me back a memory. I know a lot of the OGs are going to remember Dr. Funk back in the days.
Oh, yeah.
So Dr. Funk was a big DJ. He did a lot of high school parties or high school dances. And then he became Miguel Fonseca. And now his DJ name is High Top, DJ High Top. So I live in San Mateo, and he was the DJ to get for all of the schools here in the peninsula. And this dude commands a lot of money. And in terms of lights, all he had is like these boxes with floodlights, maybe 9 floodlights drilled into it. And that was his lights compared to like what we have with the smoke machine and the lasers and all that. And he just commands so much money, but he really knows how to get the crowd going. But he's still going strong as a DJ.
There was one guy that he was doing it as a business during that time, like when we were starting out. Is Music Masters? That's what it was. Music Masters.
I was gonna ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were in Daly City. They were also out of Daly City. Jerry was his name, and I became friends with him. A really good guy. Unfortunately, he died of cancer. But he turned it in. He had it as a business, and I think at one point he had like 12 crews going out. So all of his setups, he had the Chaser strips, which we bought from him also. But he had exact same setup for all his crews. And I remember they had their vans. He had a warehouse in Daly City, and they had the exact same setup. The only thing that was different was the DJ, and the MC that would show up. and he pretty much trained all his DJs and MC to do exactly the same thing. And he did really good. You know, he was booming. He was always having, 10 to 15 crews going out every Friday, Saturday night. So basically he turned it into a business. That's how I kind of seen how he was doing it, and so yeah, I think I kind of evolved it into that direction as well when I seen how he was doing it.
So Air 2015 asks, did any of you guys mentor younger crews, DJs, late 80s, early 90s? Who are the next generation crews that you admired?
Shortcut. Ray told me to watch him the other night. Was it Friday night or something?
Yeah, it was Friday.
Oh man, I want to be like Shortcut. If I could be a DJ, I want to be like Shortcut because he's badass. He can actually cut and scratch and mix at the same time. Because usually, if you're just a cut and scratch DJ, you're just a cut and scratch DJ. If you're a blend DJ, mixing DJ, you kind of stick to that. But dude does both. He can do it all.
Your brother, Anthony Bernie, he kept going after the 90s.
Yeah, he never stopped. He was still doing record. And then he switched over to the CDs. I hated CDs. I hated CDs. That's why I kind of laid off of it, and I just stuck with the records. Like I said, it was hard to find the records. So, yeah, he kept going. He was our MC back then, and so he loved talking on the mic. So weddings, you do a lot of talking on the mic. So he picks up all the wedding gigs easily. He does DJing also. So he's a set package up there. He's still doing it. He hasn't stopped either.
Shortcut asks, what sound systems, Filipino, before your crews were an influence to you?
Well, for me, there was like Kicks and Company. There was SOS, Electric Sounds, ETL.
Sounds.
Dude, there was the girl group, Go-Go's and YNT, Sonic Sounds, Dave. There was a lot of crews back then, and they kind of happened right after the band, Battle of the DJ stuff. I mean, Battle of the Bands. So you had mostly, because right before we came out, they always had bands, right? And all the parties you went to, the big major parties, there were always bands. But then people started having house parties, and that's where the DJs, I think, started to evolve, was the house parties. You can't fit a 5-piece, 10-piece band in the garage and still have room for your guests. So you had to have a DJ, with the house speakers and throw a little strobe light in there, a little red light bulb, and you got your party, your garage party. There was a lot of older crews. Rene Añez, like you were saying, he was with Electric Sounds. And I remember we walked into one of their gigs one time, and we were wearing our white Unlimited Sounds jacket. And we were in the city, too. And I was like, uh-oh, I think we're going to get in a fight here. I was worried because we were in the San Francisco area, and we walked into one of their gigs, and they're all wearing their jackets. And as soon as we walked in, there was like maybe 5 or 6 of us all wearing our Unlimited Sounds jacket, all white, like you see in the picture. Yeah, we walked in there, and they all kind of looked at us and like, uh-oh. But yeah, they were cool. You just stare at each other and just walk away. That was good.
I mean, that's how I got my start in mixing. Was I learned from DJ Rene Añez, his wife, rest in peace, Daphne. She was a go-go,
Yep.
And her brother Michael Gamble. Those are the guys that taught me how to mix, and when I started DJing. So shout out to those guys for sure.
I don't know if you ever heard of a group called Eclipse. Alvin Bonifacio, Peter, I forgot the other guy's name. They were like one of the original OGs that first came out, and I started listening to them, especially Alvin Bonifacio. I think he was the second guy to Cameron Paul in Studio S. So he was picking up a lot of mixes from him, and he was as smooth as Cameron Paul. And he was one of the big influences I was listening to growing up too.
Fusion, there you go. Yeah, Ken Adelin, he's still doing it. I don't know if you've seen him. I know he does a lot of gigs still, and he's actually, I think, teaching his son how to mix, so he's passing it along. I tried to teach my kids, and they don't want to have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, so let's go to that, because I know other previous guys have mentioned that they've tried to get their kids into it. None of them were interested in it. Is that the same for all of you guys as well?
Yeah, I tried to get my son into it. I said, hey, my son's name is Michael. I said, Mike, man, it's a way to get girls. You're going to be the star of the party. And he just looked at me, and goes, "Nah, Dad, my phone and an aux cable. That's all I need. My phone and an aux cable." And I'm like, the stuff that we do now with mixing it's a lost art. I mean, there's a few out there. I know Peter Sugatan's son, DJ Spam. He was badass, but I don't know if he's still DJing anymore. But you know, the style that we do right now, it's a lost art, unfortunately.
Spotify DJs.
I did try to pass it on to my wife's nephew, and like what Inno said, they just have no interest in doing this. They're more into like the computer games, you know, YouTubing. Nothing to do with what we used to do.
So obviously, you guys stopped DJing for a little bit, and then you guys kind of got back into it because of Serato, right?
Right.
And then you decide to form Quake City DJs.
The original members was supposed to be me and Anthony. We didn't combine forces till probably a year after he got me back into it. I came up with an idea. I go, hey, let's collab and just rename ourselves Quake City DJs, since you know we're back into it. Let's just let Midstar and Limited Sounds, you know, just retire in the past and start new. And he was on board. I created a Facebook page. We do pictures, videos. We kept gigging, but slowly, just you know, he went his way, I went my way. But I kept the name, and then I hooked up with Inno. I go, Inno, you want to join Quake City DJs? Just help me out. I'm getting a couple of gigs. And he said, yeah.
And I would still go to Ray's gigs once in a while. When he calls me up and needs help, like those high school gigs, man, those high school kids they're a terror. All they want to hear is the chorus line of the song. You know, they'll be all hype and jumping and crazy. And as soon as like the rest of the rapping part of the song starts, and they all kind of just die out.
But gigs nowadays, it's different because the kids will come up and ask for a song, and I look at Ray, I'm like, I've never heard this song.
Yeah,
so,
they do this. Can you play this?
Yeah. So for the last couple of years we've been gigging, I make sure I have my laptop and internet connection, and I'll rip a song off of YouTube real quick, and that's how we get at least half of their requests. But because I've never heard of any of these songs.
Yeah, that's why I incorporated Spotify in my music. The only thing is like you got to have good Wi-Fi. You know, if you don't have good Wi-Fi and you're relying on Spotify, sometimes these gigs are out in the middle of nowhere and there's no internet. Like me, I think I have about 20,000 songs on my laptop, but you know, even then, like you'll still get requested. You know, what song is that? You know, and it is way harder now. Like compared to back then, we played stuff they never even heard of, and they'll get up on the floor and just dance. You know. Yeah. Now it's like you got to play what they want to hear. Yeah. You know, it's tough. It's tough for DJs now.
So Shortcuts asks, any of y'all know why freestyle high energy and Miami bass became so predominant in the music in the Filipino mobile scene, and where did that influence come from? It was kind of because of those record pools, right? Like you just heard.
Yeah, I think it was by chance. I mean, that was the genre that was coming out at the time, and a lot of the Filipino DJ groups played it. So
you know,
it was easy to mix all the same BPMs.
Yeah,
and usually they put in the intros for you know, DJ intros.
The break,
where like the radio stuff didn't have intros or breaks, so I think DJs kind of gravitated to that because it was easier to mix, you know, and then you had like Sapphire, and you know, and all these other freestyle groups. They started coming out and they started doing concerts, and we had them in the Bay Area. And Stevie B, I think Stevie B's the father of freestyle, I think, but. You know, yeah, they all came out of the. I think the mobile DJ scene. You know, a lot of them came out from there, because we were playing stuff before the radio played it. You know, I think the Bay Area DJs influenced the Bay Area radio stations, where now it's the other way around. It's like whatever the radios play, the DJs play. But back then, it was the mobile DJs. I think influenced radio play on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of like the distribution. Like now we have the internet, so it's so easy to distribute music. But
Yep.
back then it was radio or the clubs or, the mobile DJs.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys. Salute to the OGs. Any last words?
I just want to say it's really cool seeing everyone, bringing back some memories.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to you, JR. This is amazing. Appreciate what you're doing. You're giving everyone out here telling stories. It's been great.
Yeah, I think it's real important what you're doing because you're documenting, and like you said, you never knew about all this stuff, and it's good that the stories are getting out. To me, I always thought like as long as the dance floor was full, everybody's having a good time, I was happy, and I just lived for that, that energy, when you kind of build that crowd up. I think that's why I still kind of do it, because especially like high school gigs or big dances, like you start out just slow, and you just keep building that crowd, and then you just feel all that energy. You can actually really feel that energy when you're up there, and everybody's just starting to go crazy. That's what feeds me, that energy right there.
I'm sure that's the reason why you're still doing this, 30, well, I guess 40 years
Hey
later.
now, easy now. My wife always messes with me because she always says I DJ'd the Last Supper. That's not cool. And I've been DJing for a while. Hey, it's history. It's history. I don't care.
Yeah. So yeah, for Ray and for you guys, why do you guys still spin in DJ? Is it the same brush?
It's in the blood, man.
It won't go away.
Yeah.
I got a bad back. I'm 55 years old. Still want a gig,
Yeah.
It's in the blood.
It's like what Anthony says. When you see the crowd dancing, reacting to your mixes, it's like you did your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard to, unless you're the one that's actually up there and doing it, and because you're the one controlling the crowd, so you can either kill that floor or you can kind of just get them, head bopping and stuff. You can pretty much on what you select, what music you select, you control that party. So I always say that the DJ's the main person at any party because they're controlling whatever vibe you want to make. So they can bring that room up, with maybe three or four records. They could hype up that room really quickly. There's one, like I think a high school gig. All the kids were all hyped and going crazy and nuts. And then the principal came over to me and said, you got to cut this out. You got to kill this because they're going crazy. They're dancing crazy. I'm like, but that's what you guys hired me for. And he said, no, they're dancing too much. So they told me to put on a slow song, and then I put on like some Genuine or something, and it even packed the floor more. So I'm like, no, it's just the music. It's just the music. Everybody just gets into that vibe, and then once you get that party going, it's just there's no stopping it. Like I told you last time, I've been trying to stop, but you always get that call. Like I called Ray, I say, hey, you got to check this out. This is so easy now. With Serato, it's like you can make your own mixes. You can reloop. You can make your own introduction. You can make your own breaks. That's what I was doing last night. A lot of the songs, and you hit cue points. It's so easy. You'd have to put the record on, take the record off. You'd have to find your spot with the record. But with Serato, it's just you hit that button, cue, boom, it's up. So you can quick mix. Like right now is the most easiest time to learn how to DJ. With all the software and technology and stuff.
Definitely.
But I think the real art though is 1200s and vinyl.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
But I don't want to carry it anymore.
Yeah. Just want to thank everyone for hanging on, listening to us. Talk story. It was a pleasure. It was fun.
Yeah, I had a blast. It was great.
Thank you, everyone. See you guys.